Have you ever been in a place so extraordinary that you had to remind yourself you were still on Earth? Norway is that kind of country. A land where geography seems to defy the rules, where fjords carve their way like ice scars, mountains rise from the sea like colossal giants, and the sky's light transforms everything it touches. In this video, we'll take you to 10 places that don't feel real, corners that seem pulled from a parallel world, yet are waiting to be discovered right here on our planet. Imagine walking on cliffs suspended in mid-air, listening to the roar of ancient waterfalls, or getting lost beneath a sky lit by the aurora borealis. Each destination reveals a different side of Norway, its wild power, its poetic delicacy, its history, and its impossible landscapes. And the best part is that by the end of this journey, you'll not only feel inspired, but also have a guide to plan your own adventure in these northern lands. So get ready to see Norway through new eyes. At the northernmost edge of Europe, within the Arctic Circle, emerges an archipelago that seems like a mirage in the middle of the ocean, the Lofoten Islands. A chain of jagged mountains rises directly from the sea, as if they were remnants of a prehistoric world that time forgot to erase. Nestled between deep fjords and sharp peaks lies Reine, a fishing village that many consider the most photogenic spot in Norway. The first impression upon arriving is hard to put into words. The landscape doesn't unfold all at once. It appears suddenly as you emerge from a tunnel or round a bend in the road. Suddenly, you find yourself surrounded by dramatic peaks reflected in motionless waters, like liquid mirrors. The village houses, painted in vivid red, seem to ignite against the gray granite and emerald greenery. It's like stepping into a Nordic painting brought to life. These small cabins, called reborn, are perhaps the most iconic symbol of Lofoten. Built on wooden stilts along the shoreline, they were originally shelters for fishermen who came to take advantage of the Arctic cod season. Today, many have been converted into accommodations, allowing travelers to sleep literally above the sea, with waves gently lapping beneath the floor and uninterrupted mountain views through the window. Spending a night in a reborn is not just lodging, it's inhabiting a piece of Norwegian history. But what truly sets Lofoten apart is the Arctic light. In summer, the sun never fully sets. At midnight, the horizon glows golden, and the air is infused with a soft, almost magical clarity that transforms the landscapes into unreal scenes. In winter, the opposite occurs. The nights are long, but the sky lights up with green and violet curtains when the northern lights appear. And between these extremes, the light shifts minute by minute, creating a palette that turns every hike or boat ride into a visual spectacle impossible to replicate. Reine is not just a place to look at, it's a place to experience. The fjords offer calm waters for kayaking, gliding between cliffs while observing sea eagles soaring above the archipelago. Trails departing from the village lead to viewpoints that seem to stretch to infinity. One of the most famous is Bryggen, whose summit offers a panorama of Reine and the surrounding islands, a mosaic of sea and mountains considered by many to be Norway's ultimate postcard. For photography enthusiasts, every corner is a canvas. For those seeking peace, sitting on the pier and listening to the gentle creak of boats rocking in the water is enough. The most unexpected thing of all is the climate. Despite being at the latitude of Greenland or Alaska, Lofoten enjoys surprisingly mild winters thanks to the Gulf Stream. This means that even within the Arctic, villages remain accessible, waterways navigable, and life possible in an environment that would otherwise be too harsh. This paradox, a remote and wild place, yet livable, is what gives Reine its sense of being a border between worlds. Visiting this corner of the Lofoten Islands is like opening a door to the edge of imagination, a place where land meets sea in the most dramatic way, and every moment feels as if it belongs to another dimension. And if Reine shows how life can adapt to the vastness of the Arctic landscape, our next destination reveals the opposite. How nature, in all its force, asserts itself over humanity. In the heart of Norway's fjord region, hidden like a secret among mountains over 1,000 meters high, lies Geirangerfjord. Reaching it is an experience in itself. From Ålesund, the road winds through valleys and tunnels, and suddenly a landscape unfolds that feels like a new world. It's also accessible by boat, navigating calm waters that reflect snow-capped peaks like endless mirrors. Geirangerfjord is not just any fjord. It was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2005, and not only for its beauty. What sets it apart is the unique combination of its geology, its near-pristine preservation, and the way nature here seems to tell its own story. While other fjords impress with their length, Geirangerfjord captivates through intensity. Just 15 kilometers contain a monumental scale that leaves even the most seasoned traveler speechless. Among the fjord's most recognizable symbols are its waterfalls. The most famous are the Seven Sisters, 7 parallel streams cascading from a 250-meter cliff. On the opposite shore lies another waterfall called the Suitor, which, according to legend, represents a young man who unsuccessfully tried to court the sisters. The story goes that, heartbroken, he turned to alcohol to drown his sorrow, hence the waterfall's shape, resembling a tilted bottle. This blend of mythology and geography is typical of Norway. Nature is not only observed, it is interpreted, as if every rock and drop of water has a life of its own. The fjord is not only experienced from the water. One of the most memorable viewpoints lies high above the clouds, Dalsnibba. At 1,500 meters above sea level, the view stretches over Geirangerfjord and the surrounding mountains, with roads appearing like silver threads and ships reduced to tiny dots in the water. Standing up there evokes a dual sensation. On one hand, the immensity of nature. On the other, the smallness of humans in comparison. It's a setting that redefines perspective. To grasp the scale of Geirangerfjord, just consider the numbers. Vertical walls up to 1,400 meters high, depths exceeding 250 meters, and a width that narrows so much in places that it seems impossible for a cruise ship to maneuver. Yet every summer, dozens of ships arrive, making this small fjord a global meeting point. Summer is the best time to explore it. The forests turn vibrant green, the melting snow feeds the waterfalls, and the sun lingers late, creating a natural spectacle. In winter, snow blankets everything, and the fjord becomes silent, almost inaccessible, as if retreating into its own frozen dream. A fascinating detail often overlooked is the abandoned farms clinging to the fjord slopes. Places like Skagaflå or Knivsflå were home for centuries to families who farmed under nearly impossible conditions. Steep fields, access only via rock-carved ladders, and complete isolation during winter. Today, they remain empty, like ruins suspended in the air, a testament to human perseverance and vulnerability in the face of nature. Geirangerfjord is, in short, a stage where water and mountain merge in an epic spectacle, a place where natural history intertwines with legend, and every view seems designed to challenge our sense of scale. And if this fjord makes us look down, from cliffs and viewpoints, our next destination will make us look up. A rock tongue suspended in the void, where the feeling of vertigo becomes Norway's most iconic postcard. In the Hardanger region, in southwestern Norway, lies one of the planet's most iconic rock formations, Trolltunga, the Troll's Tongue. Suspended 700 meters above Lake Ringedalsvatnet, this stone tongue juts out into the void as if defying gravity, offering one of the most breathtaking images of the Nordic landscape. The name is no coincidence. According to legend, a giant troll was caught by the sun while sticking out its tongue to mock humans. And, as Nordic mythology dictates, trolls that see daylight are petrified. Thus, the rock supposedly froze in place forever, forming this stone tongue that seems to hang from the world. Reaching Trolltunga is not easy. It's neither a viewpoint accessible by car nor a short hike. The route is 28 kilometers round trip, with an elevation gain that demands preparation and endurance. The trek takes 8 to 12 hours, crossing mountains, glacial puddles, and rocky terrain that can change drastically with the weather. Many are drawn by the famous photo on the rock, but soon discover that the real challenge is the journey itself. The reward, however, justifies every effort. At the summit, the stone tongue projects over the void, offering an indescribable view of the glacial valley and Lake Ringedalsvatnet, its turquoise surface stretching like a broken mirror among the mountains. Standing there confronts you with a visceral contradiction: the urge to step forward to feel the immensity, and the instinct to retreat from the abyss. The wind strikes with force, the valley echoes in the silence, and for a moment, you feel suspended between earth and sky. Interestingly, until a few decades ago, Trolltunga was almost a secret, known only to local hikers and a handful of adventurous travelers. Everything changed with Instagram. A single viral image transformed the formation into a global phenomenon. Today, every summer, thousands of people from all over the world hike the same trail, seeking the photo that proves they stood on the edge of the abyss. This contrast between the solitude of the mountain and the crowds arriving with cameras has redefined the site, turning it into a symbol of contemporary Norway. Extreme nature shared in real time. But Trolltunga is more than a photography backdrop. It is a reminder of respect and caution. The effort of the hike, the changing weather, and the inexperience of some visitors have caused accidents. Local authorities emphasize the importance of carrying proper gear, following guidelines, and understanding that this is not a hike for everyone. Nature here sets the rules, and forgetting that can have serious consequences. From a geological perspective, Trolltunga is the result of thousands of years of glacial erosion. During the last ice age, glaciers carved the valley and shaped the mountains, leaving exposed rock layers. The weight of the ice, combined with wind and water erosion, gradually sculpted this stone tongue, creating a perfect platform that seems designed to defy the void. It is, quite literally, a masterpiece of nature. Being there goes beyond the view. It's feeling the icy wind blasting across the summit, hearing the silence broken only by the hum of the air, and experiencing how the body teeters between fascination and vertigo. The solid ground beneath your feet contrasts with the absolute nothingness that opens before you. In that instant, time seems to stop. Only the present exists, the void, and the certainty of having reached a place that brushes the unreal. Trolltunga represents the union of myth, physical challenge, and natural wonder. A place where the rock tells stories of trolls and glaciers, and where every traveler writes their own upon arrival. And if Trolltunga confronts us with the vertigo of the abyss, our next destination invites us to immerse ourselves in Norwegian history and culture, in a harbor where colorful wooden houses have withstood centuries of trade and storms. On Norway's western coast, sheltered by mountains and open to the North Sea, lies Bergen, the country's second-largest city and the gateway to the fjords. Many journeys to Norway's most spectacular landscapes start here, yet the city itself is a destination, combining history, culture, and nature in a way that is hard to find elsewhere. The historic heart of Bergen beats in Bryggen, the harbor district that has been the city's commercial soul for centuries. This row of wooden houses along the quay is today a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but in the Middle Ages it was much more than a picturesque setting. It was one of the main posts of the Hanseatic League, the powerful network of merchants that controlled northern European trade. From here, dried cod was exported across the continent, while goods arrived from as far as Russia and England. Walking today through the narrow, cobbled streets is like stepping back centuries. The scent of wood, the crooked walls, and warehouses transformed into workshops and galleries remind visitors that this harbor has never stopped being alive. The houses of Bryggen are unique, with narrow facades, steep roofs, and vibrant colors ranging from red to mustard yellow. Why are they like this? The answer lies in Bergen's history of fires. The city has burned several times over the centuries, and each reconstruction used the same wooden technique, preserving tradition. This fragility, the constant possibility of losing everything and starting over, gives Bryggen a special character. It is not just a beautiful neighborhood, but a testament to resilience against fire and time. But Bergen is not only its historic harbor. It is a city surrounded by 7 mountains, a natural amphitheater that makes it feel both urban and wild. From almost any street, you can look up and find a forested peak, a reminder that nature is never far away. This close relationship between city and mountain is part of Bergen's identity. A curious detail is that Bergen holds an unenviable record. It is the rainiest city in Europe, with over 250 rainy days a year. And yet, that constant moisture nourishes the lush vegetation, gives the wooden facades a particular glow, and makes the atmosphere feel fresh, as if the sea and sky were in perpetual dialogue. To see the city from another perspective, take the Flåmbanen funicular, which climbs Mount Flåm in just a few minutes. From the summit, a view unfolds that completely changes your perception of Bergen. The harbor with its boats, the colorful rooftops, the fjords opening toward the horizon, and the mountains closing the circle. It is the perfect place to understand how the city has always developed between two forces: the sea that connects it to the world and the mountains that protect it. And although Bryggen's history might make it feel like an open-air museum, Bergen today is a vibrant city with a lively cultural scene, music festivals, and a youthful energy thanks to its university. Gastronomy holds a special place. The fish market is a must for tasting fresh cod, salmon, or even lesser-known local specialties such as whale or reindeer meat. It's a reminder that the fishing tradition that built the city remains very much alive in everyday life. Bergen is a meeting point between eras and landscapes, medieval and contemporary, urban and wild, rainy yet luminous in its own way. On the northwestern coast of Norway, between the towns of Molde and Kristiansund, stretches a route that feels more like an experiment between engineering and nature than a conventional road. The Atlantic Ocean Road, or Atlanterhavsveien in Norwegian, runs for 8.3 kilometers, linking small islets and reefs through 8 bridges that seem to float over the sea. From above, its layout resembles a serpent of asphalt daring to advance where the ocean claims its domain. Building it was an epic feat. Construction took 6 years, from 1983 to 1989, during which it was battered by no fewer than 12 hurricanes that destroyed sections of the work and tested the perseverance of engineers and workers alike. What could have been a defeat instead became one of the most admired symbols of human resilience in the face of the Atlantic's force. Among all the bridges along the route, one has become the undisputed icon, the Storseisundet Bridge. From certain angles, it creates an optical illusion that makes it appear to end abruptly in mid-air, earning it the nickname, the Bridge to Nowhere. Driving toward its curve feels like leaping into the impossible, until the road reveals itself again and the horizon makes sense once more. The experience of driving along this road is unique in the world. Here it's not about speed or getting to your destination quickly, but about the feeling of moving almost at sea level, with the ocean crashing against the rocks just meters away. On clear days, the sensation is almost meditative. The horizon opens wide, the islets seem carved in silence, and the road invites you to stop at viewpoints to take in the sea. But when storms arrive, the Atlantic Ocean Road transforms into a stage of unleashed fury. The ocean hurls its waves with such force that they crash over the road, engulfing cars and buses in curtains of foam and wind. Driving then becomes an experience balanced between adventure and challenge. It's as if nature itself reminds us that even though engineering has laid down a road, the sea remains the true master. This contrast sharpens with the seasons. In summer, the drive feels calm. Sunlight glistens on the water. Travelers fish from rest stops, and the sea seems almost benevolent. In winter, however, the same road belongs to another world. Dark skies loom, snow lines its edges, and the Atlantic reclaims its ground with icy winds and monstrous waves. It is the same road, but two radically different experiences. The Atlantic Ocean Road has often been celebrated as the most beautiful road in the world, and it's not hard to see why. Beyond its technical achievement, one architectural detail makes it truly remarkable. Its curves were designed to maximize the views of the landscape, not speed. Each bend reveals a new natural scene, whether the open sea, distant mountains, or a lone islet amidst the foam. This is a road designed not just to connect, but to contemplate. And yet, the Atlantic Ocean Road is not only a tourist attraction, it is also a place to encounter nature directly. Its rest areas allow you to fish straight into the ocean, a rarity in the modern world of highways. Here, stopping doesn't mean breaking the journey, but rather becoming part of the rhythm of the sea. Traveling this road is to feel how the urban and the wild brush against each other without canceling one another out. It is also a narrative bridge. From the ocean's fury, we gradually move toward landscapes where human life regains prominence, setting the stage for the next chapter in this journey through Norway. So far, we've walked through landscapes that seem pulled from a dream. Fishing villages perched above the Arctic, fjords that tell legends, and impossible cliffs that defy gravity. And the fascinating part is that all of this exists right here, on our own planet. Traveling isn't just about moving from one place to another. It's about discovering corners of the world that make us see it differently. If you'd like to keep exploring these destinations with us, we invite you to subscribe and be part of this journey. On the west coast of Norway, right at the entrance to the northwestern fjords, lies Ålesund, a city that seems suspended between the sea and the mountains. Its strategic location, spread across several islands connected by bridges and canals, gives it a unique character, a fragmented territory that always feels on the edge of the water, with the salty wind shaping the city at every moment. But Ålesund hasn't always had this almost fairy tale-like appearance. In 1904, a devastating fire swept through the city in a matter of hours, leaving thousands homeless and turning the center into a sea of ashes. The tragedy could have defined the city forever, but what happened afterward is what truly marks its uniqueness. Instead of rebuilding in traditional forms, local leaders chose Art Nouveau, an elegant, ornamental, and curvaceous architectural style inspired by contemporary European trends. German influence, especially from architects who had worked in Berlin under the Kaiser, can be seen in the facades, towers, and stone and brick details. What had once been a practical commercial center was transformed into an open-air urban museum with pastel-colored houses, curved windows, and pointed roofs that seem to step straight out of an illustrated novel. This unique architecture contrasts sharply with other Norwegian cities, where simple wooden houses or more austere port neighborhoods dominate. In Ålesund, every street is a discovery. Decorated balconies, tiny gargoyles, tiles with marine motifs, and little turrets crowning strategic corners, as if each detail tells the story of a city that learned to rise from its ashes. Ålesund's geography adds to its magic. Built across islands connected by bridges, it offers ever-changing perspectives with every stroll. From the harbor, the city appears as a tiny, perfectly ordered archipelago, where the deep blue sea contrasts with the warm tones of the facades. For a more complete view, the Oxla viewpoint rewards those who climb its 418 steps with a 360-degree panorama. From there, the city unfolds over the water, with the Sunnmøre Alps in the background and fjords stretching into the interior of Norway like the arms of a sleeping giant. Ålesund is also a gateway to the wild. From here, it's possible to venture into remote fjords, explore hidden waterfalls, and ascend mountains that defy verticality, all just a few kilometers from cobblestone streets and central cafes. The city functions as a balance between civilization and nature, a place where history, aesthetics, and daily life coexist effortlessly, allowing visitors to feel the proximity of the extreme world without losing urban comforts. Today, Ålesund is a vibrant, functional city with markets, artisan workshops, and a cultural life reflecting both its past and present. Yet its true magic lies in the sensation of being in a place rebuilt with purpose, where every facade tells the story of a community's resilience and artistic vision, refusing to disappear. Our next destination will take us to an environment where nature imposes absolute rules. A fjord so narrow and deep that it seems to suspend time. On the remote island of Magaroya, at 71 degrees north latitude, lies one of those places that redefine what travel truly means. Nordkapp, the North Cape, the northernmost point in Europe accessible by road. Reaching this spot is not simply a tourist destination. It is an act of crossing extreme geographies and climates to stand at the very edge of the continent, where the land ends and the vastness of the Arctic Ocean begins. The North Cape is a monumental cliff rising 307 meters above the icy waters, and when you stand at its edge, there is nothing between you and the North Pole but endless sea. The feeling is as simple as it is powerful. Gazing at the horizon here is like witnessing the end of a known world and the beginning of another that remains wild and impenetrable. And yet, geography carries a curious twist. Nordkapp is not technically the northernmost point of mainland Europe. That title belongs to Knivskjelodden, a nearby peninsula that stretches a few kilometers further north. But the practical difference is irrelevant. Nordkapp, with its accessibility, history, and grandeur, has become the undisputed symbol of the end of Europe, a place where myth, geography, and human epic converge. Among the phenomena that make Nordkapp a surreal experience is the midnight sun. From May to July, the sun never sets. It shines around the clock, bathing the cliffs and the ocean in golden and orange hues. Walking at dawn under a warm light that never fades is an experience that defies our inner clock, an immersion in suspended time. That same light, cast upon the site's most iconic feature, the iron globe sculpture, turns the North Cape into a living postcard, recognizable worldwide. The globe, installed as a universal marker of the world's end, has become an altar where travelers pose, reflect, and celebrate the achievement of reaching this place. Fascination with this corner of the world is not new. Since the 16th century, explorers and adventurers have ventured to these latitudes to document its existence and conquer the unknown. For many, setting foot on the North Cape meant entering history, a feat that confirmed humanity's ability to reach the impossible. Today, that legacy lives on in traditions such as the Visitor's Certificate, a document travelers have been able to obtain since the 19th century to record that they reached the end of Europe. But Nordkapp gives nothing away. The climate here is brutal. Winds can exceed 180 kilometers per hour, and in midsummer, the average temperature barely hovers around 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. In winter, storms turn the road into an odyssey, and on many days, access is possible only in organized convoys. Even reaching it requires overcoming a technical challenge. the 6.9-kilometer undersea tunnel that connects Magaroya Island with the mainland, an engineering feat that in itself enhances the feeling of journeying to an extraordinary place. Being at Nordkapp is confronting an existential experience. Before the immensity of the Arctic, the traveler feels reduced to a single, minuscule point, caught between wind, cold, and emptiness. And yet, life persists even here. Colonies of seabirds nest along the cliffs, defying hostile conditions and reminding us that nature always finds a way to endure. More than 350 kilometers within the Arctic Circle, Tromsø seems like a city of contradictions. Urban yet remote, modern yet ancient, small yet global. Known as the gateway to the Arctic, this city combines the functionality of a university and scientific hub with the feeling of being at the edge of the world, where every glance at the horizon reminds you of the absolute presence of nature. One of Tromsø's most fascinating paradoxes is its extreme light. From May to July, the sun never sets. The phenomenon of the midnight sun bathes the city in a clarity that defies biological clocks. Streets, squares, and fjords remain illuminated, and daily life adapts to a rhythm that seems to require no rest. Evening walks along the harbor, with golden light reflecting on the water, create a sensation that can only be described as pure timelessness. Then there is the other side of this extreme, the polar night, from November to January, when the city is plunged into darkness that can last for weeks. Here, light becomes a luxury, and every reflection, every illuminated window, gains special significance. This contrast between perpetual light and continuous shadow defines how residents relate to their environment. Learning to live with suspended time is part of Arctic culture. But Tromsø is not just about light or darkness. It is one of the best places on the planet to witness the northern lights when the night sky ignites with green, violet, and red curtains dancing above the city and fjords. Seeing them is more than a visual spectacle. It's a sensory ritual, feeling the cold on your skin, the absolute silence accompanying the movements of light, and the thrill that expands with each flash. It is a reminder that here, at the edge of the world, nature writes its own calendar. Tromsø also has a rich history of exploration. For centuries, it served as a starting point for Arctic expeditions, home to adventurers venturing onto glaciers and frozen seas in search of discovery. This tradition lives on in museums, universities, and research centers, where scientists and travelers share the same drive to understand and coexist with an extreme environment. Near Tromsø, the presence of the Sami people and their reindeer reminds visitors that these lands have been inhabited since time immemorial. Indigenous traditions, clothing, music, and herding practices coexist with urban life, adding another layer of cultural depth to this extreme city. Living in Tromsø means adapting to these conditions. Temperatures can drop well below zero. Winds lash the fjords, and urban infrastructure must function under extreme circumstances. But it also means embracing proximity to nature, walking across frozen canals, climbing nearby mountains to see the midnight sun, or simply watching the northern lights from your window. Daily life here is a constant balance between adaptation and wonder. Tromsø represents the frontier where urban and wild meet, a place where humanity has learned to coexist with extreme light, severe cold, and nature's most intense phenomena. the heart of Norway, hidden among steep mountains and deep fjords, lies the Flåmsdalen Valley, a narrow, green corridor connecting the mountain summit with the deep waters of Geirangerfjord. Here begins one of the most spectacular train journeys on the planet, the Flåm Railway, an engineering marvel that turns a mere 20-kilometer route into an unforgettable experience. What makes this journey unique is not only the landscape, but the technical achievement it represents. In 20 kilometers, the train climbs 863 meters, passes through 20 tunnels, and winds along almost vertical mountainsides. All of this was accomplished without a rack railway system, making each slope a challenge for both engineers and trains alike. Construction of this line was no easy feat. It began in 1923 and was completed in 1940, a 20-year project combining human effort, precision, and patience against the harshness of Norwegian nature. Boarding the Flåm Railway is immersing yourself in a sensory journey. Every curve reveals a new landscape. Roaring rivers winding over smooth rocks, green meadows hanging over the void, and mountains that change color with the light. The train's rhythmic clatter on the tracks accompanies the cadence of nature, and each window frames a different postcard. It feels as though the train floats between mountain and fjord, an extension of nature itself rather than just a mode of transport. One of the journey's most iconic moments is Geirangerfjord, a waterfall plunging powerfully right beside the tracks. The train makes a brief stop here, and if you're lucky, you might see the Huldra, the mythical forest woman of Scandinavian legend, said to enchant travelers with her beauty and song. The combination of water, myth, and landscape creates a moment that lingers in memory long after arriving in Flåm. The village of Flåm is tiny but strategic. Located at the end of the fjord, it serves as a gateway for boat trips, kayaking, and hiking. Its compact size doesn't diminish its charm. Every house, pier, and narrow street conveys the sense of being in a place where nature defines both life and local culture. For those seeking a full experience, Flåm offers epic combinations: train plus ferry, in a journey known as Norway in a nutshell, allowing travelers to experience fjords, mountains, and rivers in a single day, alternating between elevated views and water-level perspectives. In minutes, the landscape can shift from barren mountains and bare rocks to lush green valleys, a contrast highlighting Norway's geographical diversity in one route. A fascinating technical detail is that the Flåm Railway is Norway's steepest standard gauge railway without a rack system, a feat requiring perfect balance between engineering and respect for the natural topography. Every tunnel, bridge, and curve is a testament to human ingenuity facing extreme nature, reminding us that some routes are not merely transportation, they are experiences in themselves. Flåm and its railway show how Norway combines landscape, myth, and engineering in a single journey. From the mountaintops to the depths of the fjords, every kilometer offers emotions, sights, and sensations that leave a lasting impression on the traveler. Now it's time to venture to the far north of the planet, where civilization meets eternal glaciers and polar bears. At the far north of the planet, at 78 degrees north latitude, lies Svalbard, an archipelago seemingly suspended between ice and sky, halfway to the North Pole. Its best-known settlement, Longyearbyen, is a city that defies imagination. Small, cold, and inhabited by people who have learned to live under rules very different from those of the world we know. Here, some rules seem taken from another planet. It is forbidden to be born or die in Longyearbyen. Pregnant women must relocate south before giving birth, and the deceased are sent off the archipelago as the permafrost prevents bodies from decomposing properly. Birth and death, two of the most universal cycles, are suspended in this place where nature imposes its law. The most tangible danger does not come from the cold, but from polar bears, which outnumber humans across the archipelago. Every resident must carry a rifle when venturing outside the urban area, not as a whim, but as a vital safety measure. Encounters with these white giants are real and constant. Their tracks in the snow and their roars echo as a reminder of who truly dominates this environment. Svalbard is also home to the global seed vault, known as the End of the World Vault, an underground repository preserving seeds of every crop variety cultivated by humanity. It is a symbol of hope and precaution. In the most remote place on the planet, the future of global agriculture is safeguarded, frozen in Arctic ice. The landscape is almost lunar, glaciers stretching to the horizon, still tundra, bare mountains, and endless skies. Vegetation is minimal, and colors shift with the seasons, always under the influence of ice and wind. Every view reminds us that here, nature is untamed, imposing itself with majesty and precision. Longyearbyen began as a mining town, built to extract coal under extreme conditions. Its history is marked by workers arriving from different countries, and industrial structures now coexist with modern homes, shops, schools, and small cafes. The international community is notable. Under the Svalbard Treaty, people of any nationality can live and work here, creating a global microcosm in the middle of the Arctic. During the polar night, which lasts approximately 4 months, the town is plunged into total darkness. Light disappears, and only the glow of the northern lights and urban lamps breaks the winter's monochrome. This extreme phenomenon transforms the perception of time and space. Each day feels identical to the last, and life unfolds according to a rhythm dictated by human adaptation. Climate change is immediately tangible. Svalbard warms up to 4 times faster than the rest of the planet. Glaciers retreat, sea ice diminishes, and the effects are felt in flora, fauna, and daily life. Being here is witnessing firsthand how a sensitive ecosystem responds to global disturbances, a reminder that even the edge of the world is not isolated. Walking through Longyearbyen and its surroundings is experiencing a sense of absolute limits. Beyond the last houses, there is only ice, wind, and infinite horizon. The world is reduced to the essentials: rock, snow, ice, and the constant struggle to coexist with an environment that does not adapt to us. It is an experience that redefines the perception of space, time, and human fragility in the face of nature. Svalbard concludes this extreme journey through Norway with a clear lesson. The world has corners where life is constantly reinvented, where light and darkness, danger and beauty, history and future coexist unyieldingly. Longyearbyen is a reminder of what it means to inhabit the edges of the planet, and how every Norwegian landscape, from fjords to glaciers, connects us to something far greater than ourselves. From here, we look back on a country that combines extremes, where humanity and nature meet at their fullest expression. Norway, in its entirety, reminds us that travel is not just moving. It is feeling, learning, and marveling at the majesty of the world we inhabit. Traveling through Norway is walking among extremes. The light that refuses to rest, fjords seemingly suspended in time, cliffs that defy gravity, and landscapes where human life coexists with the wild almost miraculously. Every place we have visited not only reveals the country's geography, but also the persistence, adaptation, and beauty that arise when nature and humanity meet in balance. It invites us to ask, what does it really mean to be at the edge, whether physically, emotionally, or existentially? How would our perspective of the world change if we were forced to face it with the attention, respect, and humility demanded by a fjord, a glacier, or an Arctic sky? As the sun reflects on the ice and the auroras dance over endless mountains, there remains the feeling that Norway never ends, and that there is always a new corner off the map waiting for us.